Good morning, good morning, good morning. We have week 6. Did you guys know we're already a third of the way through the regular season? I feel like that's kind of bonkers. It does not feel like that. It's been a very strange season. I think there's been a huge emphasis on concussions. Is something I've been thinking about a lot. I feel like a lot of players are just going out with concussions and getting removed from games early. It's definitely been a big thing across a lot of games. I think at least one team in every matchup has a player that has to leave a game early due to concussion. Let me think, because last week I remember Jake had Musgrave leave early for a concussion. Though I know I had Wandale and Tank Dell. Well, Tank Dell was on the bench, leave early for a concussion. And obviously Anthony Richardson, but that wasn't a concussion. But I'm trying to think, there were a bunch of others too. I just feel like there's a huge emphasis on concussions this year. So, yeah, just a thought. I've been thinking about also maybe I should do these videos more of like I'm interested if I were to do these as a sort of a live schedule thing. So I would just have like the link to the YouTube channel that I put these up to, and then instead of making this video and uploading it and doing all that, I just go live at, say, like 9 o'clock on Tuesday mornings, and then post the VOD after that for anyone who couldn't be there, who does actually want to watch it, for all 5 of you who actually do watch it. But I think it would just be maybe easier than, making the video, then upload. I mean, it's easy no matter what, but it'd also be cool because if you can sort of talk to me while I'm making the video, like if it's live, you can have the chat going as well, and it might make it just a better experience. I don't know. If that is something that is interesting to you, just let me know. I kind of want to do it, but won't do it if no one's gonna be there. But anyway, so we can get started. See, I already have stacks right down there on the bottom left in the basement still. As horrible as my outing was, I still didn't have the least points scored of the week. Actually, let's look at points against. Am I still least points against? No, I think, yeah, Jenny is least points against. Then me. Then Chris. Right? Then there's like a mile until Jake. And then even a bigger mile. Is the next one really 671? No, 611. Yeah. But I mean, I know my example is a bit of an outlier, but it's not unusual for the top teams to have lower points against. And I say this every time, but it's because they're not going against the people that are scoring so much. So their points against is naturally going to be lower. That's not the case for me, because I think I have the let's see, 1, 2. I'm like tied with Jenny for points scored. So basically, yeah, I'm third from the bottom or fourth from the bottom or something like that, right? 574. So 1, 2, 3, fourth from the bottom. So basically the very low end of the midfield. So yeah, that's not good for mine. But let's look at some of the matchups now, because I've been talking a little bit now, and let's get into some of the actual power rankings. The reason that we're here. So I think if we're looking at these matchups, there were only a couple that were close, and some were more meaningful than others. So this is a big one. Jake versus Nolan. This was also a big one. The two really surprising 1 and 3 teams. Just knowing that this is a rematch of last year's championship that is now determining who's going to be 1 and 4 and who's going to be 2 and 3. That was an exciting one, and I thought there was a chance that Freaky would pull that out there at the end last night, but I went to bed and didn't see the end of it. This was supposed to be a good matchup, but it wasn't. I did bad too. Chris did really bad also. I mean, his team didn't really do much, and there's some concerns I'll go through when I get into there when I do the actual rankings. But yeah, 2 and 2. This is a 2 and 2 versus a 1 and 3. But I think, even before looking at the score, I know that Zach had a much better looking team than than McGovern did. But this was probably the most surprising score of the week, honestly. This 178 bomb that Jenny dropped on Jay to send him really far down to that 0-5. That's you're lucky not to be in the basement, Jay. I know you're not watching this, so who really cares? But I mean, look, another year, another no dollar spent from Jay. I know you know how to use the fab system, Jay. So that's not the good reason. And I used to say, oh well, he has kids, so he's probably really busy. I think that's not necessarily the case anymore, because here I am, and Chris is going to be having a kid soon. Jenny has a kid, and Jenny just kicked his ass. So and Jenny's the mom. Jenny's a mom. Jay's just a dad like us, yeah, we do things, but we have time for this. But Jenny doesn't, and she kicked his ass, and she's now 3-2. Now sitting at the looking really on the inside now, possibly for a playoff spot. So yeah, there'll be a lot to go through here in the power rankings. So just sort of going through, some of these teams. I know obviously Stacks, Robert still at the bottom, and there's not much hope, really, because you have a matchup against Zach, Najee Harris on bye. There's not. I love Ayuk. Ayuk is definitely the best player on this team. Having Amari Cooper back will be good, but I just don't see it. There's no path to the playoffs here other than just buying players. And at that point, you buy a bunch of players. All someone like, if you do somehow manage to even get a team like Elliott's put together, then he can just buy like one guy and just completely like unbalance it. All he has to do is call up Jay, ask for Kelsey back, and no one's beating Elliott's team. It would be impossible, barring you could lose Jamar Chase and still be number one on here, which is kind of insane. But yeah, that's where we are. So I'll start, I guess, like I said, I'll start at the bottom, past Robert, obviously. So you start looking at how the teams have performed recently. So now we're getting to the point where even if you look at points for and points against, you have to look at how the teams are doing more recently, right? And the circumstances to how they got there. So saying that, the one who's most familiar with underperforming teams lately would be probably me with mine. And Jay's team is also probably one of the next ones I would go after to comment. So I'm gonna start with Jay, because I really don't want to put myself at the bottom, even though I might have to. Let's see. Daniel Jones, Jerry Jeudy, Michael Gallup, Alan Lazard, Jacobs, Connor, Kelsey, McKinnon, Ingram. T. Higgins will be out until, was it when's their bye? Is it week 7? Yeah, so he'll probably be back week 8, would be my guess. I don't think they'd bring him back this week. But Deshaun Watson needs to come back and actually do well for him. So we'll see. They're not yet. He might not even play. So I mean, Jay's season has been derailed by injuries. It wasn't a bad team even before it wasn't a top tier team before the injuries, but we never really got to see what it could do with Deontay Johnson getting injured and Mike Williams being injured and Treylon Burks. I think is he a bust? Is Treylon Burks a bust at this point? I think it's definitely possible. So I mean, we'll see. I mean, obviously the Titans passing game is really bad. I mean, Tannehill doesn't have it, but does Treylon Burks do better on a different team? We don't know. But really two good tight ends. I feel like this team should get, I feel like Jay's team will get farmed for these two by some competing teams, would be my guess, who are in need of some help. I would suspect maybe someone like Jake reaching out. I know Jake, you like Musgrave, but I don't. But you also picked up Ertz, who got a catch for a touchdown. So I know that's not not sustainable each week. And I think just if you wanted to take your team over the top, you got Hopkins, which is good. So that's a good move for T-Bib. You know, I think to make that team a true contender, you might need either Kelsey or Ingram. So I think the easier catch would be Ingram there. But anyway, back to the actual power ranking here. As bad as my team has been, I do think this team is just worse. I really truly do. You can disagree with me all you want. Hang on, I gotta do something real quick. I'll just do it on the video because I need to change. You're not even gonna be able to see it, so I just gotta change where my pen. So I have a pen that I do all this writing for. When I do the writing in the notepad, or on the paint rather, and I had the pen capture set to the screen where the paint isn't. So I think I just fixed it. Yeah, okay, here we go. So we're gonna do MACD down here. MACD. We're doing purple this time now. So yeah, I do think I don't even know how Josh Jacobs finished the night, if I'm being honest. He got the touchdown, which is good. So those are, I mean, some good games, a nice soft schedule. But I mean, those are some. The usage is obviously very encouraging. And a couple of good weeks in a row. But I mean, James Conner, they said he's going to miss some time, right? Likely to miss a little bit of time. So even if these two are solid running backs, I do think they're solid. I mean, these three right here, that's solid, but it's not really great. And these three are just, Lazard could be on waivers. Gallup could be on waivers. I mean, Judy would get scooped up immediately if he got put on waivers, but I mean, he's basically a flex. I mean, these are Josh Downs numbers. So that's not really ideal. He needs T. Higgins to come back and be healthy. There's just not many paths for Jay's team to be good. So yeah, after having 2 first-round picks, it's a very unfortunate outcome for Jay. I mean, let's look at that. Johnson, Williams, Higgins. Those are your starting 3 receivers, all missing multiple weeks due to injury. That's pretty crazy. But anyway, so yeah, that's Jay down there at the bottom. And I think logically the next team to look at would probably be mine. Because I had like 70 points last week. The week before I had 90. I think this last week will be an all-time low for a number of reasons. Richardson going down again really, really early in the game. I don't remember if it was first quarter or if it was like the beginning of the second, but that's, you know, I think he's been injured every single, right? He came out of the first game early with like a knee, like his knee was hurting or something like that. Then this was the concussion. He didn't leave this game. This is the game he did not leave early for, and actually played a complete game, and he was on my bench. But then this one again. So that's just brutal. You know, and I think he's gonna miss probably at least a month. That's a terrible injury. So now what you want to see? Michael Thomas, my leading receiver over CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams. Look at this. I mean, it's awful. The Patriots are the worst team in football. I don't think it's even close, right? Who are some other teams that would be close to the Patriots and how bad the Giants? Would you rather have the Giants team or would you rather have the Patriots? I'd rather have the Giants. I think the Giants are a better team than the Patriots are. Carolina's really bad. Maybe Carolina and New England are about the same, and I have both of their running backs. Obviously, you know, my thought process for Sanders coming in was, yeah, Carolina's not going to be a great team, but he's going to get usage, and he's going to get a lot more usage in the passing game, and he was getting usage in the passing game. 6, 5, 9, then it dropped off, and then season low there. So he's been dealing with some injuries, but the problem is Carolina just keeps running him right up the middle. They play calling is terrible. The offensive line is terrible. The the defense isn't that bad. The run defense I think is pretty bad, but the pass defense is pretty good. But just bad. Ferguson, this stat line isn't good, but you got to consider where Dak was. Dak was just absolutely horrible. I really like Ferguson. I'm still pretty high on him. Adams had a rough game against, Jair Alexander was back. I think Adams could probably cook up that defense, but I don't think Jimmy G was up for it. And that was a boring ass game. I went to bed at halftime. But Jaleel was good. I mean, having these two, I think, is really important for my team to be able to do anything this season, especially if what I've been thinking about Ramondre is I just need to get through these first few weeks. And my team, I did. I mean, he's been struggling, but it doesn't get any worse. Again, look how it softens up. I don't know what the Patriots are going to do, though. They're just going to fall behind early, and only the New England Patriots would take a guy like Ramondre Stevenson, who is a pass-catching back and is somehow pretty nimble with the frame of his. That's what made him one of the better running backs in the NFL, and turn him into a north-south guy only. How do you give this guy 2 targets? And how do you give Zeke, a guy who is only good basically at the goal line at this point? Zeke is a north-south guy. Only the Patriots would take a guy like Ramondre Stevenson, turn him into a north-south guy, and then take Zeke, who's the north-south guy, and make him the receiving back. I know Zeke could catch balls earlier in his career, but he's not that guy right now. It's just horrible coaching. I think what we've seen from the Patriots since Tom Brady left, and there's going to be a lot, I mean, the Patriots fans will agree with me, of course, but there's going to be the non-Patriots fans are probably going to disagree. I think Tom Brady this is my hot take, he might be underrated. How awful the coaching is and how just awful the teams around him were. And you can say, he had great receivers. He had Gronk, Gronk, yes, I'll give you Gronk. Gronk is a generational talent, but I think it's Brady that made those other guys better, and covered up all the mistakes. It's always in Bill we trust. No, it's not. I think it was Brady the whole time. So, I mean, that's just my take on it. However, some positives, if there were some good takeaways from looking at my team here. Downs looked really good even before Richardson went down, and then he also looked good again with Minshew at QB. But that's enough going on about my team. That's way too much time at this point. However, I'm going to keep the purple color. I do think right now this team is about on. It's a little bit better than Jay's, but not really. I think it's still in the same ballpark. So it's definitely in a lot of trouble. So I'm going to put Kamish down here. I think Jenny's team, who used to be down here, is a lot better. I think Kupp showed up, and Kamara's here, and those are 2 very important players. And Breece Hall is now dominating the backfield again, which is huge. So some obvious. So prior to this last week, I think it was around here, I want to say, we had McGovern. Wow, A-Chain's now down to doubtful already. Likely out multiple weeks. Not believed to be season. Oh, you don't even want to hear. You don't even want to hear that. Well, guess what? That's another injury to make Elliott's Mostert. That's unbelievable. Just another. Just keeps injuries keep folding into Elliott's way. It's insane. That's pretty ridiculous. But in any case, he's got Jonathan Taylor back. He had A-Chain. Now A-Chain's going to be out for a while. But Rachaad White can slot in. This team, it's pretty good if Ritter can build off of his career best game. I think that was his best career passing game this last week. And if Lawrence finally decides to stop being poo-poo, Like, that was a pretty decent game. He used a couple more these low volume touchdowns. But we'll see. We'll see how that ends up going. But I think this team definitely has potential. Waddle just hasn't shown up, but wide receivers are weak. This is probably the weakest wide receiving room. Is it the weakest? It might be. It's one of them. I like Nico Collins though. So we'll see. But I think I gotta think of now I'm starting to think, do I like his team more or my team more? Jonathan Taylor will be back in the fold. I think, I'll be honest, I'm actually gonna change this a little bit. I'm sure California McGovern is not paying attention anyway, but I'm gonna actually move mine up a little bit. I'll move mine up to 9. Again, you can disagree all you want. I do think mine's a little bit better. JK Dobbin fan club. Yeah, especially that. I mean, A-Chain being out. We saw what Atwell. So Atwell had, he played a ton. He's just not getting. That's not the Matt Stafford type of guy to run everything through. So I think his value does go down. Nakua's is the same. Dotson he's a good player, but yeah, that's not something that you don't like to see that. Howell stinks, but yeah, so that's okay. So that's where we are now. So we have to move up to the next tier. This is definitely, is that a tier break? We'll see. I need to see more than 1 week out of Jenny's team, I think, to move out of that tier. But definitely moving up into the 8th spot. I mean, Pickens had another good game. Doesn't he have 2 big games? Yeah, two monster games. And then a dud here, a serviceable game there. That's not bad. And this, I love the targets. I definitely love the targets. The yardage. They're trying to use him. I mean, he is very, very good. And 15, 16, 17, that's pretty good for playoffs too if she gets in there. So, but looking at it, Brees Hall, Alvin Kamara, Mark Andrews. Didn't Andrews have a touchdown? No, but he had 10 targets. So high-end TE1, really rough flex down in here. But Godwin's going to come back. So you're looking, I mean, that's not a bad wide receiving group anymore. This is a pretty solid, I mean, and Justin Herbert will come back. Not a bad team. Not a bad team. But Jake and I got a lot of flack for how we drafted this team, and it was looking pretty bad for a while. But now Kupp is back, and Brees Hall again, good. I think Brees Hall was a good pick in the 4th round or something like that. So yeah, and he's back, baby. Look at that. Of course, it's against Denver. Anyone can run well against Denver. We'll see how he does against Philly. I think. Well, I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if he had a big game anyway. Not obviously this big, but he could have a good game. So, I think to decide, I'm going against Jenny this week. We'll see who can break themselves out of this bottom tier. But right now, gun to my head, I'd rather have this team than my team. So I gotta put Jenny's up here, but I do think it's still in the same tier. So I'm gonna do next year. All right, now there's a tier break. We have 7 teams remaining. Can't believe I had to even think about counting. It's literally right here. It says 7. But now there's a tier break. Now we get into Jake. We get into Freaky. Who else falls into this tier, in my opinion? I think at this point we have to wonder if Nolan's in here too. I like Nolan's team a lot, but there's just zero consistency. Obviously, it was a tough bye week, right? I mean, we have to consider that. I think that's what makes my team even worse is that there were no buys. I had no bye weeks. So that's obviously really rough. Actually, that's a good case to make for if oh my god, what's his name? McGovern. Sorry, McGovern. My brain's not working. I don't have a coffee on me right now. But anyway, we gotta wonder. Yeah, Nolan had a bye week, right? But it was Ken Walker and Tyler Lockett. This team just doesn't have wide receiving depth. I've been saying it all year. How are you gonna survive the bye weeks with this wide receiving core? It's gonna be tough. Putting in Burrito Bowl, KJ Osborne. That's actually kind of surprising. That's a really, I mean, not that it would have made a difference, but I wouldn't have put in P. Ryan. I probably wouldn't have put in Algier. I might have put in Osborne over Burrito. I wouldn't have wanted to start Burrito here against Miami, assuming you go down fast, and then they're just forced to pass the whole game. But in any case, I mean, just a rough wide receiving core. I think with Jake's acquisition of DeAndre Hopkins, I think I would say Jake's team is better. So I'm gonna start. Let's go over here. I'm going to move this up to blue. It's one of Natalie's favorite words. Blue, 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 blue. Let's see. Where'd it go? All right. Yeah, I got to put JWB here. I mean, that's just tough because I do like a lot of his team, but I don't know. There's something not right. There's something not right in that team. And I'm going to move. These are going to move around a lot, I'm sure, but I do think who would come after that? Let's look at Freaky's team. Because so Jake has Eckler coming back. That's just something that we can't really ignore. And Freaky got Pollard, but at the expense of AJ Brown. And so I talked with a couple of you about this, but what on the deal with the Pollard and AJ Brown deal is a very, very interesting one. And you can be framed a couple of ways. So you have one where you're trading a wide receiver, high-end wide receiver for a high-end running back, and it's pretty even. But a workhorse running back is a lot harder to find. So that scarcity element is, definitely in Freaky's favor on that side of the trade. However, the other way to look at it is that you're trading away. In AJ Brown, you have a perennial wide receiver one, all-pro wide receiver, and a high-powered offense. And you're trading for a guy, a running back who his first year as a workhorse, a true workhorse running back, a true three-down back, always was more of a high-efficiency, mid-volume guy. He had his breakout year last year. So, proven is a question mark. I don't know if I would consider, was it like a little over half a season last year? But he has a ceiling as high as CMC, right? So, there are a couple ways, and I think when you can frame it in a couple of ways, that makes it a pretty even trade. I think the pick swap wasn't necessary, but I think I think Elliott slightly upgraded, right? It was Elliott got the 8th rounder and Freaky got a 9th. So I think that definitely diminishes Freaky's wide receiver room by a lot. He still has Tyreek, and then it's sort of then he has Sun God here. But his team is definitely struggling. I mean, Kyron Williams has been very TD dependent, except he had good yardage this week, but two TDs, two TDs, two TDs. He's not very efficient, So he needed running back help. So you have Pollard and the question marks everywhere else. We got Tua. Tua's a good get, but even then, I think Tua got like 19 points last week. So comparing Freaky's team to, say, Jake's team, right? In which way they're trending. So right now, Fields is trending way the hell up. right? Fields has had 2 lightning. I mean, Washington defense is absolutely horrendous, and so is Denver. But soft schedule. So it's like you have good defenses, and then you have bad defense. And then, you know, there are a couple of mid-range defenses in here. So we'll see what he does. I thought he looked okay in the game. I think these numbers definitely inflate what his actual performance was. I think he's fine. I think, you know, these are going to be probably his best weeks of the year. But I could be wrong. He's also not running, but they're really trying to make him a pocket passer. And I think he's fine, but I do think he's trending up, and he has that upside. So I think Justin Fields is back. Metcalf, Hopkins, and either Evans or Addison. Then Eckler's finally back. Then you have Madison, who's again a high-powered offense in Minnesota, who's going to get his opportunities and does get his targets. Does he have any games with less than he's had 1 game with less than 3 targets. Other than that, you know, these are decent target numbers. So I think that's good. I think the weaknesses here are a tight end, obviously, is the big one. The wide receiving depth is there now. That was definitely a big question. But, you know, you have Olave, Metcalf, Hopkins as I'd say your 3 best. And then the next tier down, or actually, so Olave, Metcalf, Hopkins, and Evans. Evans dealing with an injury. I mean, that's good. That's good wide receiving depth. The running backs are a question, but if Eckler is back and healthy, if Eckler is healthy the rest of the year, this is a very passable RB room. So, and then obviously the normal carrying 3 defenses tactic that Jake loves so much. This will be an interesting matchup, but I think I like Jake's team better, even better, honestly, better than Freaky's at this point. So I'm gonna say I might have to even move some of these because, yeah, no, I think this is fine. I'm gonna put in Antonio, but these are in the same tier, right? Antonio Gibson's, Hitman, Reborn, and then T-Bib. And then for the top 3, there's still the teams we have left here are Elliot, Chris, Morganelli, and Zach. And I'd say, I mean, this is I can just do this now because it doesn't really matter. Elliot's going to be up here. I think we all know that. There's no reason for this team to not be number 1. So it's basically going to be the next 3 that are tossed around a little bit. And I gotta say, from what I've seen out of Chris's team lately, I'm a little bit nervous. This was not a good week, but I mean, Ridley finally got. I mean, these are good targets. You know, Watson was just a touchdown short of having a huge game. Garrett Wilson is definitely handicapped in that offense. This Bijan game might be an anomaly because that's probably his second lowest output. He'll be okay. But the running back room, outside of that, I mean, is Aaron Jones ever going to play again? He will. There's a bye next week, and then he can get going against Denver. I'm honestly, now that I'm looking at it like this, I'm like not that surprised that they held him out with the bye week around the corner. But, I mean, Gibson, whatever. I don't want to talk about Gibson. But Laporta, Hawkinson, it's a good duo there. But there is, there's a couple these. I like Keenan Allen. I like Elijah Moore. I think Sky Moore could be on waivers soon. Claypool should be on waivers. So there's good wide receiving depth, but the running back room is sketchy. And Taylor's already got released. Okay. Yeah. So comparing that to a team like Morganelli's or Zach, I mean. This is such a lethal, like, Stephon Diggs is so good. When's the bye week for? Oh yeah, their bye week's all the way down there. So he's got to come back soon, right? That is a brutal 15, 16, 17, a brutal looking running back matchup. New Orleans and Philadelphia. I don't know. I don't think the Rams have that great of a run defense. I'm not sure, but New Orleans and Philadelphia, that is rough. But it's also Barkley, so we'll see what ends up happening there. Thielen has been a monster, right? So you look at Diggs and any of these, that's some solid depth. DJ Moore, how can we ignore that 50 burger? And no reason to think it would slow down. I mean, you could say Justin Fields comes back to earth, but it's not like he even threw for 300 yards. They just all went to DJ Moore. And why not? But Swift is the guy, and Barkley would be the guy, but I think just the potency of the wide receiving room is enough to cover any weaknesses in the running back room. Kmet has been on fire. I do think this team regresses a bit, but I still like it, and I don't have a whole ton of worries about them. I think it's this team, as long as Barkley comes back, this team is about on par with Chris's running back room. And I think the receivers, as far as receivers are concerned, I would slightly, it's pretty close, but I would rather have Zach's room. Lamar Jackson is just not a great quarterback. I think we're seeing that this year. Maybe I'm just being a little harsh, and maybe it's just some recency bias. But even just watching him play, he doesn't look that good. These are horrible passing numbers. Yeah, the running back upside's there. You're not getting two rushing touchdowns each week. Sorry, but I'm just not a fan. I'm not a Lamar Jackson fan. We'll see how he does, but he's risky all the time. I'd rather have. Would I rather have Kirk Cousins? I feel like I'd have Kirk Cousins and Lamar at this point, almost in the same bracket. But anyway, so I think if I'm gonna go and say which team is next on the list, I'm gonna put. That's so close. These two are so close. I do think Morgan Elliott is actually up here. So, just basically, you could probably tell that obviously on my inflection on how I'm doing this. But every week, he puts up crazy points. He's got to be near the top in points for, right? Where is he? So he and Chris have basically the same. But he's been trending up. Morgan Elliott's, I think, been trending up a bit in points scored. So yeah, I think from here, I like I said, I have concerns about Chris's team. So I'm gonna put Crew here, and then I'm gonna put K. And finally, I'm going to put, I mean, I look at Morgan. Oh, Justin Jefferson, doubtful. Likely bound for IR. Hold the phone. Wait a minute. That is a fold I was not expecting. And that, guess what? Without Justin Jefferson, that's what we do. Look at that. That's like one of those twists at the end of a movie. Look at that. You thought you had me pegged. You thought I was going to put him at this number 2, but little did you know all along I was going to make that switch there at the end and put him in 4th. And then Elliott at the top. That was pretty obvious. So this is what I have right here. Or I guess there. Yeah. There. That's what I have for power rankings this week. So yeah, I do think the power rankings are interesting because, like, compared to them, the actual standings, my team should not be in third. My team, I think, is in. I do think it's in this range. I think I could beat Jenny next week and I can move myself up, but we'll just see. I really need to see something out of those running backs. So, but anyway, I'm not going to keep going on about my team. So last thing I'm going to do here, let me just pop this open. So I showed these last week and I just updated them again for this week, sort of the quote unquote fair rankings. So for each week, hang on a second. So for each week, it's you know, if you get most points scored, you get the 11. The least is 0 on how many teams you would beat. So just like going through here, the fair standings would have Elliot number 1, Chris at number 2, Zach at number 3, Morgan Ellie 4, Nolan at 5, Freaky at 6, and so on and so forth. So, but again, you gotta look at how teams are trending and if they're the same teams as they were earlier. So like down here, for example, it has Jake and me tied at 25 points. And I think, I mean, it's still not super impressive what I mean, Jake had a great first week and has been below average, and like at average. But again, there's been no Eckler since this week. Eckler is the difference in here. And now he has DeAndre Hopkins. And there was also, and Olave has done pretty much like nothing. So I think Jake's team, according to this, is supremely underrated. I've had no bye weeks, and I've had some injuries, but my team has been largely pretty average and trending down. So that's why I'm putting mine down here. Jenny's is trending up. Really awful first few weeks. Still below average here, but with Cooper Kupp coming back, that could be the Kupp effect. But as far as like consistently great, you have Elliott, who's been above average, but has one top score 3 weeks, second in another one. Chris is trending down, so that's why I've moved him down a bit. But he's really only down to like third place with how Morgan Ellie's is. Morgan Ellie's been above average except for 1 week where he just had a dud. Yeah, and so Freaky's has jumped around a bit. We'll see how Freaky's does. We'll see how the rest of them do too. But this is what I have for the rankings. Well, this isn't, but the one on over here is. But over there, that's so weird. It's like not at all where the screen is. So over there is the quote unquote maybe fair standings is not the right word, but I don't really care. This is what the name of it is. So that's what I got here. Yeah, if you want to chat about it or whatever, I have time to talk about football. So, but if you did make it this far, let me know what you think about the idea for a live, like scheduled one of these, and then just posting the VOD afterward, as opposed to making a video and then posting it. But that's about it. So I'd say, yeah, good luck to all. Not too much luck. Just keep everything even. May the best team win, and I'll be back for week 7 after next week. See ya.